Good afternoon and welcome to Essential Ingredients. I'm your host, Justine Reichman. With me today is Todd Rands, the founder and CEO of ELO Life Systems. Welcome, Todd.
Hi, Justine. It's great to be here with you today.
Likewise, I'm excited to chat with you, learn more about ELO and what's behind it. But before we get started, if you would, just make an introduction for yourself as well as state your title and the name of your company.
Sure. No, glad to do it, Justine. I'm Todd Rands, the CEO at ELO. I came from a background of science and agriculture and law, and I'm sort of a misfit toy. I sort of come from that island of misfit toys where throughout my career I've pivoted several times, but learned a lot along the way. Early days, I was a molecular biologist doing cancer research, using all sorts of new technologies to try to cure disease. And as I advanced, I got more into the other types of inventions and patent law and ways we can bring technology from the bench all the way out to the market to solve real world problems. And I got very excited about doing that for a number of years. And ultimately, after a lot of therapy, I got out of law and moved into more of the business and the strategy side of things, learned to be a farmer, working at some companies along the way. And ultimately, I fell in love with the venture space because we would work with these companies all the time that were taking on big, bold, audacious problems that they were trying to solve and had no appreciation of risk taking. They just seemed to believe they could do anything. And it was so refreshing when you're sitting across the table from people like that are challenging assumptions, pushing the limits of technology, trying to do more to change the world. And it was such a great experience. I couldn't wait to jump out of what I had then as more of a corporate job and had a chance to just jump to the other side and start chasing those types of problems and dreams.
So, is this your first time as a founder?
No, the first company I joined in the venture space was a biopharma company working on an antimicrobial compound that we took to the clinic and got into those early clinical studies. Ultimately, we ended up winding that down as so many biopharma companies do. You run into challenges in the clinic. And then I was able to move on, did consulting for a number of years, helping other startups to, come forward with their products, figure out their strategies. And then the opportunity at ELO came along. And, ELO is an interesting company. They were sitting inside of a big pharmaceutical company that was using certain technologies to make cancer therapies. And they had this little agricultural division that was using the same kinds of technology, but doing it in agriculture and plants, where they could come in and do some editing in the DNA to make improvements and help companies that were trying to make new products in the agricultural space. And the owners of that therapeutics company decided they needed to spin that out because it was so different from what they were chasing with their cancer therapeutics. And so ELO was spun out and created as a standalone company just a few years ago. And that's when I came on board. I saw this in tremendous potential. It was like a Ferrari engine for R&D in the agricultural space with all these really great technologies that we could apply to solve problems. But they didn't have the other parts of the car built yet. They needed some steering. They needed a steering wheel. They needed some tires. So I came on board, and ever since then, we've been essentially building out the rest of ELO and its mission and the products that we're going to focus on and use all of that R&D horsepower now to drive the company.
Awesome. So, when you joined ELO, what was your vision?
We wanted to make foods healthier and
Okay.
at the same time improve the environment. And, it kind of comes, if you think to what the food system is today, and this is, the problem that I see us solving. Our food system is designed to solve World War II era problems. We're essentially trying to get as many calories as possible to as many people as possible. And that was the kind of challenge we were facing back in those days. And, mission accomplished, right? You can look at what we're living with today. We're living with the consequences of that success. We have all of these chronic diseases and obesity and trillions of dollars of resources now going to fight these types of problems. And we wanted to reimagine a different future. We realized that it wasn't about delivering more calories to more people. We needed to get better nutrition to more people. We needed to improve the quality of that nutrition and make it more broadly accessible and affordable. And that's what we realized we could do at ELO with our technology. We can go using plants as a biofactory, in essence. We can produce better ingredients in these plants that can be scaled and delivered to the food companies so that they can use these ingredients in everyday foods that consumers already love and enjoy. But we can make those foods healthier for them, and then we can also at the same time improve the impact on the environment. Because both of those missions are really key to what we're doing at ELO.
So walk me through how you improve the quality and the nutritional factors in this food.
Yeah, so it all begins with what nature's provided us. We really use nature as our guide. And so if you think about all of this diversity in nature, it's just a miracle how much is out there, but much of it's just not accessible, either because it's present in really small levels or it's really hard to make it through other types of systems. And so here's all these great things nature's made for us, but we can't really access them and scale them and use them in our food system. Well, Ella's come up with a way where once we identify those interesting ingredients that are out there in nature, we can reconstruct those in our plant systems and start to grow and scale them so that we can harvest them from the plants that we're able to use as essentially like a biofactory.
So what do you consider interesting? What is that? What qualifies as interesting when you're out in the fields?
Oh, the world is full of so many interesting molecules, you know, the spices and the flavors. And we're learning about all these bioactive compounds that are good for your gut. They're often just present in really tiny amounts. And so normal, you know, if you go back 3 or 4 decades, well, we would just go deforest the Amazon to find enough, right? We would just start stripping the environment to get enough of a molecule if we wanted it badly enough. And that's just not acceptable, right? So we need different ways that we can produce those kinds of ingredients. And the big one for ELO right now, you know, we took a long, hard look at what's going on in the food system that needs to change. Where are the trends going? And there's two areas that got us really excited. One is sugar reduction. How do we reduce excess sugars in our diet? And I don't mean eliminate sugar, because there's always going to be cake and cookies and sweets. But as you start reading the packages in the store, it's amazing how many ordinary foods just have excess sugar added at levels that are just unhealthy. And we knew that that's where trillions of dollars of, of societal cost was going to try to fight chronic diseases that come from that. So we wanted to come up with a molecule, a new ingredient that we could help fight the excess sugar in our diets. So we found this really interesting sweetener in nature. It actually comes from this Chinese fruit. It's called monk fruit, and it only
Mhm.
grows in very remote valleys in China with just the right fog conditions on the sides of these mountains. And it's really hard to grow. You have to hand pollinate every flower in order to produce the fruit. So there's tremendous labor costs. And not surprisingly, it's incredibly expensive and hard to get enough supply. Well, we figured out how to take that same pathway that's in monk fruit, but put it into some of our other crops that we could grow and scale like a biofactory. And then we can produce enough of it that we can make it available for the food industry in a way that's affordable so it can actually be used really broadly. And there's a tremendous demand for it. It's 300 times sweeter than sugar. It has 0 calories. It's kind of like stevia, except it tastes good. You know, there's a lot of people that aren't big fans of stevia, and I'm sure some of your listeners are going to argue with me about that because it's such a relative thing, right?
So we've been talking about Magic Mind. You all know that I find it to be a great way to start my day. And with these natural ingredients, it's just ideal. So if you want to get your subscription, you get 56% off if you use the code Essential20. If you want to just try it, you get 20% off with that same code Essential20. So it's worth trying. Try Magic Mind. Tell me what you think. Now, on the where did you guys come into place with monk fruit? Because monk fruit's around, people are using it.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me where did you guys come up with this, and how is what you're doing different than other people using it?
Yeah. So the big challenges with monk fruit today are the cost.
Right.
They charge, this is getting now into some technical weeds, but $350, $400 a kilogram. And because of the cost, it just can't be used very broadly. So when you see it in foods today, sometimes people will sprinkle in just enough so that they can put it on the label because they know consumers want to see monk fruit sweetener in a lot of their foods. They actually really are attracted to the health and just the naturalness of what monk fruit sweetener can provide.
What are some of the health benefits, by the way, of
Well,
monk fruit?
besides just getting rid of sugar, there's a long history of anecdotal evidence in China in terms of anti-inflammation and other positive properties from using it in diets there. They actually use it in a medicinal way in
Hmm.
China for a long period of time.
Are there any specific studies that you could share?
There are some studies out there, and again, most of them are out of China, where they've looked at some of the other properties of monk fruit sweeteners or monk fruit extract in the health of in the studies that they've looked at there. But the one that sticks out to me was they were looking at the anti-inflammatory properties of it.
And are
Um,
you guys conducting your own research on monk fruit?
we're focusing on how we can produce the sweetener from monk fruit in systems that we can scale and grow, so
Okay, so
that we
it's
can
more
make it more
accessible.
broadly available and more accessible. That's exactly where we're headed.
And
The
so,
idea actually came around because we had some partners working with us, big beverage companies that were very interested in making monk fruit more accessible and affordable so they could reduce sugar. As
mhm,
we've talked with all these CPG companies that are using sweeteners, they're all really working hard to reduce sugar across their entire portfolio. And it's a challenge because there's just there's a limited number of options, and we've seen these trends going where people want to get away from artificial sweeteners.
mhm.
They want to move to more natural sweeteners. And stevia is one of the solutions that's available, but it's got limitations with its taste and some off notes. And monk fruit sweetener has been highly prized and valued for its just tasting as close to sugar as possible. So that's what really got things moving, was this consumer demand for better sweeteners that are natural, and monk fruit sweetener is right at the top of the list.
And so, what are some of the greatest, or what are some of the impacts that you're seeing as a result of creating this within your vendors or your clients, rather, not vendors, but clients that you're working with to provide this?
Well, the first thing we've seen is just excitement. Now, we're early days. We're still in the development phases because biology takes time. We've got to grow things in the field and have to go through several seasons to get that all produced and scaled up. So we'll be out in the field next year starting that amplification and growing to reach our scale. But yeah, the reception's been tremendous. They see new opportunities now to move away from artificial sweeteners, to have another tool in their toolbox with reducing sugar. And some of the formats we're creating are going to be able to do things like, imagine a juice that's reduced sugar, but it's still 100% natural juice. So they can make juice products that have a lot less sugar in them and replace some of the filler juices and other things they use, like apple and grape juice, which are just high sugar content. That's what they add to kind of fill
Mhm.
the beverages out, but call them 100% juice. Well, now you'll have a solution that brings all the sweetness, but a fraction of the calories. So we
Hmm.
have a format that's going to be available as a juice base, and then we have another format that will be the traditional powder that people can use across lots and lots of different products.
So when you envision this, because I like to, make my own juices, right? And I only put a small amount of apple in because I don't like it too sweet. But I
Yeah.
put cucumber and lemon and all these different things. And, it's a balancing act, right? So are you saying that there's going to be a potential that, let's just say you do want a green juice, but you don't want to add apple because it's high in sugar? You add a little bit of this, the monk fruit, which will add a little sweetener, not be quite as high in sugar as the apple. Am I understanding?
Yeah, that's right. You'll have a juice format that has a fraction of the calories of what apple juice would provide in terms of sugar content.
So even if it's just an apple.
even if it's just an apple.
Not
Uh,
the apple juice, you know what I mean? Like, because, for example, when you go buy apple juice, sometimes they add sugar, or there's added things. So I'm just talking about in its raw form, the apple as juice. Does it have less sugar than that?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
So we would have, in our case, we're using watermelon. So we can actually create a super sweet watermelon juice that you can then blend into those same kinds of products instead of using apple juice or white grape juice, which add all those extra sugar calories. You can use this watermelon juice with a fraction of what you would get from the other sources.
So is the goal to make this available not only to larger organizations, maybe Coca-Cola, but also to individuals who are cooking in their house, making cakes and cookies for the holidays?
I think we're headed exactly to that kind of place. Ultimately, we want consumers to have an experience with it in a form that they can use in their everyday lives, and so then they go looking for it in the grocery stores, in the products that they're buying off the shelf, because they already know they love it and they're using it in their own house.
Are there plans, because of the research that you've read and because of what you've learned, to conduct your own research to be able to integrate this as food as medicine, or to use it in alternative ways, because it's such a hot topic right now, talking about the impact of food on our health, and that, which is exactly what you're doing by reducing the sugar. But you also talked about the anti-inflammatory qualities. So I'm wondering where that falls into your plans, or if it
Yeah.
doesn't.
I would love to get to that point where we can actually do that. We're in startup land right now where we're pretty focused on the main set of problems and challenges of reducing sugar. But absolutely, I could see a world where some of the institutes who traditionally do that type of work start to, as this product expands and becomes more common in the food space, there's going to be a lot more interest and a lot more energy going at exactly what you were saying, Justine.
So, what do you think the most important thing consumers should know about what you're doing,
Well, I think
or
they,
about the product?
yeah, the, it's this vision of understanding how technology can deliver something better, that we can help them eat healthier, but they don't have to make trade-offs. They can still choose the foods they already love and enjoy, but we can deliver something to them that's healthier for them, that they can feel good about when they're choosing it. Because not only is it healthier, but it's going to be better for the environment because of the way we're producing it. We're not going to be making ingredients in remote valleys of China and then shipping them all over the world to get them back into a package in the US somewhere. We're going to be able to grow these locally and scale them and make them accessible and affordable in a way that's better for the environment. I mean, it really changes the game, right?
Right.
What we grow, how we grow it, where we grow it, we can really reimagine this future of food because we can use tools like this. We call it molecular farming. And that's a name that a lot of folks throw around in our space, is to how do we use plants like biofactories, and now you can like forget everything that we've ever done and how we did it before, because we can just totally rewrite the map for how we grow our food and produce our food. And that's what's so exciting about what we're doing at ELO. We're just one company, with this particular product that we're moving forward with, but the potential of what that technology can do is tremendous.
Are there any hard hitting statistics that show the impact of changing from sugar to monk fruit for people's health?
I don't know that I've seen that comparison you're describing directly with monk fruit, but there's certainly a lot of studies that show the benefits of coming off sugar. And sweeteners are a way that we can substitute for that sugar without sacrificing the flavors that we love. But I kind of talk to people sometimes, when you really think about what sugar is, it's like the world's biggest drug trade, isn't it? If you've ever come off sugar, you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's the psychological effect, the emotional effect, the physical effect. I mean, it just wipes you out when you try to come off sugar. And I know because I've tried to do it like 10 times, maybe in the last 2 years. So there's this constant cycle that we go through that proves that sugar is doing something to us that's not healthy. And of course, the statistics and the health data that's available, I mean, it's like tobacco smoke, right? Everybody can see the harm that it's causing. There's no question, right? But we can't stop because we still crave the sweetness.
Addictive. It's
Yes.
addictive.
And that's
So,
what we need to fight.
so is monk fruit going to be addictive too?
No, no,
This
we haven't
version
seen
of
any
monk fruit.
data that it doesn't have those same effects because it's not metabolized the way that sugar is. It doesn't affect your body, the insulin production. None of that response is there with these high potency sweeteners like monk fruit or stevia or the others.
So I know you have had a very varied background, right? I mean, the law, the microbiology, the startup, all these different things that have brought you here today. So, but why this? Why did you choose to do this?
Oh, it really struck a passion for me. It's that intersection of technology and agriculture and food. And I spent a lot of years working in the agricultural industry, part of that machinery that was really excited about feeding the world and drove their mission to how are we going to deliver more food to people. But it was all focused on corn and soybeans, and that didn't excite me. It didn't feel authentic to me that we're trying to feed the world and do good in the world, but I don't think the world needs more corn and soybeans. I think there's enough of that, right? And
Probably.
but what we needed was the diversity of what nature provides. We needed to get better nutrition to more people, and so I saw this opportunity in ELO to really put the technology to work to do good, not in the big corporate way, and doing something different than anything that we've done before.
So if somebody wanted to learn more about ELO, how might they do that?
Well, a good place to start is, you can go to our website at lolife.com, and there's a lot of resources there. We have a lot of news. We get a fair amount of coverage too from the media about the work we're doing. Not only do we have this first product with our sweetener that you'll see and read a lot about, we have other molecules we're looking at with our molecular farming platform and looking at what else can we produce that's really in high demand but hard to get from nature.
Mhm.
And then we also have some really interesting work because part of our mission is to protect foods from climate change and from other challenges they're facing. And we have a big project we've been working on for several years with the Dole company in
Uh-huh.
bananas because there's this terrible disease that's wiping out all of the yellow bananas that you love, the Cavendish bananas that everyone eats. And it's such an incredible food if you think about it. Every culture, every country, bananas are a part of their diet because it's such a convenient source of nutrition and it's affordable. Well, it's going to go away. With this disease is going to wipe it out if we don't do something. And there's a race right now to fix that. So
Mhm.
we've been doing a lot of work in line with our mission to protect those types of crops.
So if somebody wanted to, access the product, when can they expect to be able to do that?
Yeah, we'll be working in the fields next year to start getting that scale I mentioned. How are
Okay.
we going to get enough samples that we can start really giving it out so food companies can begin to work in their formulations and see how it fits with all of the other things they have to put together. And all of that's going to start happening next year. So
Awesome.
we're
So,
working now on partnerships. We're not going to be the experts. We're not going to sell our own colas and yogurts with our sweetener in it. We're going to be relying on partners that want to reduce sugar in their products.
so who would be your ideal partner?
Well, the big industry in beverages is obviously Coca-Cola and Pepsi are the two really dominant
That's the
forces.
dream.
Uh, you know, it's certainly it's a dream, and that maximizes the opportunity for sure. But what I'm finding in the early stages is there's a lot of really interesting, innovative brands that are a little edgier and looking for something new that can differentiate themselves, and they're ready to move fast. And so,
Mhm.
as a startup, speed is like oxygen to me. I've got to keep moving quickly because capital is leaking, and so you've got to keep moving fast and getting your product forward. And those companies have been really interesting to me as we've found partners that are ready to they share our vision for innovation, right? They understand it, they get it. It's experimental. We got to figure out how to make it work and take some risks along the way. And then eventually the bigger companies they see the momentum, and that's when they really want to get in.
So I asked you that question because, of course, we have other founders, researchers, VCs, etc., people that listen and watch these video casts. So I wanted you to be able to have an opportunity to share who you'd like to partner with in case somebody that's listening or watching wants to get in touch. So,
Thank you.
um, how, if they did want to partner with you, what would be the best way to connect?
Well, it's certainly easy to get a hold of me. I've got a link on the website where you can click and send me a message, and would love to talk to potential partners.
Awesome.
We have a lot of those discussions underway with ingredient companies as well as with the more traditional CPG companies, and across a number of different spaces: beverages, dairy, protein powders, and meal replacements, as well as cereals and some of the kinds of foods you can imagine where sugar reduction is a high
The
priority.
world is your oyster here. You have so much to reach for and so many opportunities to bring the amount of sugar down and replace it with a little better for you solution. So, Todd, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all about ELO and everything that you're working on. And we'll follow along and stay up to date so we can continue to see the progress.
I'd love to do that, Justine. And of course, if you're ever out in Research Triangle out here between Raleigh and Durham in North Carolina, I would love to have you out for a tour and let you taste some things.
I'd
And
love
we'll look forward to coming back and sharing our progress when
that.
the time is right.
I hope so.